All right. Hi, everybody. How are you? My name is Connie Aramento. Thank you for joining me this evening to learn a bit about what the Desire Map is all about by Danielle LaPorte and how really it helps you in your personal, your professional development, and also how it helps students. And this is something that I have personally experienced before I started sharing it with other people. So what we're going to work through, and I'm going to share my screen with you in a minute, is really helping you understand what this is all about. And I do have the book here with me just to show you exactly what it looks like right there. And this is something that I'm going to go through for you to get a nice little summary of what the experience is like. And then we'll have some opportunity for discussion and questions afterwards. So thank you again for joining me this evening. So give me 1 second here to share my screen with you. All right. Okay, awesome. So, as I mentioned, the Desire Map is by Danielle LaPorte. And for those of you who are interested in learning a little bit more about Danielle LaPorte, please feel free to go to daniellelaporte.com and you can learn all about all of the things. And I'll share some of the different types of books and resources that she offers and that are available for you if you're interested in learning a little bit more. But as I mentioned, today we're going to focus on this as a tool for you and your students in particular. So let me tell you a little bit first about who I am. I know that, oftentimes people might ask the question of who are these people that are posting things and what do they want? And for me, really, I just wanted to share with you a little bit about my personal experience. How did I get to where I am today? What my background is, a little bit about why I'm interested in sharing this information with you all today. So first and foremost, I am a mom and I am a wife. I'm currently the Associate Director of Academic Advising at Worcester Polytechnic Institute in Worcester, Massachusetts. I have been there after my time working and receiving my master's degree at Central Connecticut State University. And so it's been about 12 years. Time flies when you're having fun in higher ed, right? And really my focus there has been in leading our first year program, which is called Insight. And I think we all have things that we're certainly proud of. And for me, it is our 96% first year to second year retention rate. And so I love first year students. I love the fact that they come in with, not knowing anything, having no expectations, and really go through that transition, really watching them fully develop through that and helping them learn and grow is what we're all about and what we do, right? In addition to that, I also lead the Health and Wellness Initiative at Worcester Polytechnic Institute. And my other hat that I truly, kind of lead soul with here is I'm the CEO of SoulSync Wellness. And I've been doing that for about 7 years. And I'm a certified integrative health coach, intuitive life strategist. So you might say, well, what the heck does that all mean? And really, ultimately, what I do is I help busy, driven people find their health and find their purpose in their life and ultimately live it, and being able to do all of those things and live a happy and joyful life. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And so when I'm working with a variety of different people, it's really taking a look at the whole person, not just what you eat, not just how you work out, but also how are you with your finances, your career, and how are those all kind of putting that picture together in that story and helping you work through some of those pieces and get to a point where you want to be. So it's really meeting you where you are and really being able to help you get to where you want to be. And I'm also a Desire Map facilitator. I've been doing that for the past year. Before I even knew that I could be a facilitator about this, I was using it for myself and people that I was working with and sharing it with everybody. So it was really cool when I was able to do it about starting a year ago. And I'm a visionary for Project Positive Change, which is an online platform for change makers and should be going live actually in the next couple of weeks. I love sharing my wisdom and inspiration as much as I can. And most importantly, learning from our students, learning from the experiences that I have. And so this brings me to where I am here today and sharing with you what I know and have experienced. So our goals here in the next 30 minutes, hopefully, right, are that I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the Desire Map is is all about, right? I'm going to share with you a little bit about how it helped me, how I have found that it's helping others, and personally from my particular experiences and the experiences that I have hosted and facilitated with individuals as well as with groups. I will also share with you a little bit about how it can help you personally and professionally, your students, how to experience it, and then opportunity for us to really have questions and to brainstorm. So, before we begin, I want you to really think about, what your experience has been with goal setting. And most of the time, many of us are doing this once a year. Once a year in particular, as it connects to our review for our performance appraisal and our jobs, or our supervisors encourage us to write down those goals of what you'll accomplish over the next year. And then sometimes the following year, you look back at those goals. Maybe it's been a while since you've looked at them, and then you realize that, oh, I didn't do that, or something else came about. And I have seen that over the years in working and supervising a variety of different professionals, and as well as with myself, is just that I noticed how that there was a disconnect behind the goal setting process. And really being able to say, okay, you're asking me to make them as SMART goals, but how does this necessarily connect to how I want to, does it connect to me, or is this something maybe that somebody else wants me to do, and because somebody else maybe wants me to do it, it's really hard for me to accomplish it. And so that was always something that I pondered and thought. So I want you to think about your goal setting process, and as you look at your past and your current situations and when you have done it, and also when you facilitated this with students, how have you found it to be successful? What has worked for you? And have you found that there's a connection between things that you have had as goals and that they've been on your list maybe for years and they're not happening? Or look at the things that you have accomplished, and why do you think that you accomplished those versus the things maybe that you haven't? So those are some things that I want you to ponder for yourself, but also how you work with students in goal setting as we continue through this. So let's start with jumping right into the desire map. And really, what is it, right? So the desire map, and I know many of you are probably thinking about, oh, we're going to map something out. And it is some concept of a map, but it's really more of a internal reflective process. That map is internal, and then yes, you do put it on paper and you do take a look at it, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But it's really a new way to set goals and ultimately achieve them. And so the biggest thing that I want to share with you and what the desire map is all about is it really answers one question. And the one question that it answers is how do you want to feel? And it's on the back of the cover of the book. And so, when I'm talking to audiences or when I'm talking to groups of people or even students, I'll ask them that question is, so for academic advising and students who haven't done well or students who are at risk, I'll often say to them, okay, well, you're here. So how do you want to feel every day? How do you want to feel in your classes? How do you want to feel outside of the classroom? And then they'll share with me, well, I want to feel like I'm having fun, or I want to feel like I'm successful. Okay, well, what does that mean to you? Tell me a little bit more about that. And really being able to help students hone in on those pieces. And as a professional, how do you want to feel every day? Oftentimes my colleagues will share with me, well, I work long hours, or, financially, it's just hard for me to do all the things that I want to do. And so I'll ask them, well, is that how you want to feel every day? And they'll say, well, no. And I'll say, okay, well, what are you doing about it? And that's where we pause and we get stuck. And sometimes we don't know how to move forward. And that's where the desire map process really helps us, right? Is really helping us hone in and answer that question of how do you want to feel? Not right now, not only a year from now, not 10 years from now, but honestly, every day. How do you want to live your life every day? And that might be a really difficult question for people to answer. And so that's why this process is really valuable. So when we think about the whole process, it's really developing what we call core desired feelings. Now, core desired feelings are feelings that don't change. In essence, this is really about, who you are and at the core base of your personality, your soul, your purpose, what you're most passionate about. That's where your core desired feelings exist. Okay. So what I find all the time is or most of the time I should say is that when I'm talking with people, I'll ask them, "Well, how do you want to feel?" And so they'll say, "Well, I want to feel happy." And so I'll say, "Okay, well, what does that feel like for you?" And then there's a pause. And so that tells me that they may want to feel happy, but there's more to that. There's more to being able to say that they want to feel happy. So it might mean they want to feel respected, or they want to feel trust, or they want to feel loved, right? There's more to that. And so the nice part about the desire map is really getting a full understanding of what a word might mean to you and how it impacts you is really really important. So we'll talk a little bit more about core desired feelings in a few moments. So the desire map process takes a look at 5 areas: body and wellness. So what that involves is things like, right, our fitness, our food, how are we relaxing, our mental health, how are we really taking care of ourselves from a body and wellness standpoint. The second is creativity and learning. And this is our artistic and self expression, what we enjoy, our education, right? I know many of us often ask the question of how far do I need and want to go? Am I going to get my doctorate in the professional realm? Or, for our students, they may be thinking about, what's the value of my education and what's my major, right? For our livelihood and lifestyle, that's the third. That's our career, our money, our work, our home, our space, our possessions, fashion, travel. That's how do we want to live in flow, and what does that mean? So when we think about a career in higher education, what does that mean for us? The fourth is relationships in society. And that in particular is really taking a look at our friendships, our relationships at work, our relationships in person, our friendships, our community. What are we engaged in, right? What are we passionate about? Different organizations, those could be professional or personal. And then our essence and our spirituality. And that's ultimately, what our values are, our character, our soul, our truth, what's our intuition, all of those kinds of things, right? So those are the 5 areas that the desire map really focuses in. And so what do we do with these 5 areas, right? Why these 5? What do we learn and do from these things? And the biggest piece behind this is we take a look at each of these areas and we ask ourselves 2 things. One is, what are we grateful for with each of these areas and why? And then what are we most dissatisfied in this area and why? So when we look at body and wellness, what are we grateful for in our body and our wellness? Are we grateful for that we are able to walk, or that we are able to we are healthy, we don't have any disease or illness going on? What is that? Or dissatisfaction. Maybe we feel like we need to lose weight, or we don't have we're tired, or we're fatigued, or we're not eating right, we're not taking care of ourselves, and really getting to the core of why do I feel dissatisfied with this. And so we ultimately work through asking ourselves the question of how do you want to feel then in each one of these areas. So once you've gone through the gratitude, once you've gone through the dissatisfaction aspect, you have to look at the answering the question of, again, how we started, which was the how do you want to feel? And that's the hardest part. How do you want to feel means that we have to actually allow ourselves to dream a little bit, to desire and to let go and not have any boundaries. And that can be an interesting place. I've done this with colleagues that I work with, and when we sit down and we goal set, and I'll ask them, well, how do you want to feel, when you're in your job every day, or how do you want to feel in your career? And so that's a very different conversation than what's your goal in the next year. So think about that for yourself and seeing maybe what the difference is for you. The third thing is really kind of connecting to your senses. And I think that this is so important, is that once we get clear on how we want to feel, the rest will happen. And this is the best, phrase that I can recommend to you, is the feel more, think less. Someone told me that once, and I realized that many a times I was thinking more and feeling less. And so my brain was, not necessarily directing me in the place that I wanted to go, because I was leading from a different place, or there was disagreement between mind and heart, kind of a thing. So try that for yourself. Think about things as, I'm going to think less about this and I'm going to feel more, and see if you can feel the difference with that. what you notice is that once you do this exercise is that there are different patterns and themes that actually emerge, right? Sometimes we see that we're repeating things in each one of these areas of, oh, I don't feel like I'm valued. And so I don't feel like I look my best. And so you see it kind of trickle in your body or your creativity, or, if you didn't get a promotion for something at work, or you're not feeling appreciated, that this might stem all the way across into your relationships, and you might find some pattern with that. And so patterns and themes do emerge, and really you make those new discoveries, and you say, wow, I didn't realize that I was even doing this for, I was thinking this, right? And so then you can ask yourself the question of, does this make sense? Should I be paying attention to this or should I not? And those are some reflective pieces. But I think ultimately the nice part about this is that you can understand why you are where you are, and ultimately you gain that clarity of where you want to go. I'm going to say that again. You understand why you are where you are, and then where you want to go. And that's because we have the opportunity to really look at both sides of the spectrum. But there's three components to this. The first being the gratitude, the second being the dissatisfaction, and then the third being is that, okay, well, based on that, now actually, how do I want to feel? And asking yourself the question, where might I want to go, right? And so we can't ultimately create a goal setting plan unless we can become clear on how we want to feel. Because we may say that in 5 years we want to be, I don't know, married with kids, or have a doctorate, or be in a director position, a dean position, whatever that is. But are we feeling that? Think about that. Is there a connection there? Or is that us thinking and thinking more rather than feeling more? See the difference? So through this experience, participants ultimately, or when you're reading, the book, you develop up to 5 core desired feelings. And what happens is that you will start with about 20 things that come to your mind. Once you develop and find those patterns, you'll say, wow, I'm noticing that I'm really saying that I want to feel loved in lots of places, or I want to feel appreciated in lots of places. And maybe that's one of your core desired feelings that comes up for you. Or free. I want to feel free, right? And so those are some things that you'll start with 20, and then you'll look at each one of those, and then you'll work it down to 10, and then you work it down to 5. And you'll develop and walk away from this, reading this experience or participating through an experience. And one of the things that I forgot to share was that you can certainly read the book and do it on your own. That's how I did it. And I started it, and I'll share with you in a minute about how it's helped me. But I also do these experiences in person, and I actually have an upcoming retreat next Saturday. So if any of you are local here in the Massachusetts or New England area and are interested in participating in this experience, I do still have space available, and you can email me at connie@soulsync.wellness.com, and I'd love to have you join me. But ultimately, these feelings then become your new compass for life. And so instead of running to writing your goals down, there's actually a point in time where all you do is you focus on every day working with these core desired feelings, or saying, I want to feel, and then fill in the blank, and then seeing what happens. And so you're in this experimental mode to see if what you have selected is actually true, and if it's what is most connected to you. So the nice part about this is that you're not chasing the goal itself. You're chasing the feelings that you hope attaining those goals will give you. Let's think about that, right? So think about goal setting. Think about if you started with this first. If you started with the how do I want to feel first versus the writing your goal down, okay? How would that make it different? So how did it help me, and what's my story? So I think for me, when I look back about 4 years ago, actually more than that, about 4.5 years ago, I had my daughter. And after that, I was in the midst of my supervisor. We had a very small office, and my supervisor was retiring. So I knew that I was coming back to a lot of change after my maternity leave. And once I had my daughter, I had a lot of health issues that I was trying to really just get myself back on track. And I was really struggling. And so when I came back to the office, my supervisor retired, and I took on in a short term interim type of role. And I then went through a search process for running for the director position for the office. And at the same time, I had a beloved uncle who had had passed away, and within a very short period of time, at the age of 52, was very close to me, like a father. So that was going on. And I didn't end up getting the director position, and so I kind of fell in this rut and just didn't I didn't know where I was to go. I didn't know that. I had lots of questions. Is higher ed for me? Is this the place where I want to be? What do people think about me? Oh my gosh, I thought that I was doing a great job, and I don't understand why I wasn't selected. And honestly, that was probably the first time that I had ever experienced such disappointment in my career. And I had been in my career probably about 6 years at 7 years at that point. And so then I was faced at, what do I do? What do I do? How do I work through this? How do I, do I leave? Do I go? I mean, all these things started going through my mind. And I actually chose to stay. I chose to stay in the position that I was in. I really, chose to take a step back and to really do some reflection. And then that's when I found The Desire Map by Danielle LaPorte. And she just had released the book. I found it somehow on Facebook. Someone said, "Hey, new book, check this out." And I had just read her book, The Firestarter Sessions. And so I was like, all right, let me check this out. And I read this book, and it changed my life. And what it allowed me to do was really get clear on who I was and what I wanted, and face a lot of things, face the stories I was telling myself, the fears that I was going through. And it allowed me to really pick myself back up and to sit in that and to ultimately feel resiliency. We talk about our students, right? We want them to be resilient, and we teach them how to do it. And sometimes when we are in those positions, it's hard for us to do it. And I faced that. I definitely faced that at that time. And so I'm forever grateful now looking back at it, and I'm still in the role. I'm still in the a position. I love what I do. And I found the one thing that really came up for me was that I wanted to feel inspired, be inspired, and I wanted to make sure that every day that I felt that I was being creative, I was creating something. And so at the time, initially, I thought that I wasn't creating anything. And so I'm not moving forward. I'm not creating anything. And so instead, I said, well, why don't I start to create things where I am and where I was? And so honestly, that's when I started to think about really expanding my business and really thinking about how I can make a difference where I was with health and wellness. And then that's when the health and wellness initiative started. That's when our first year programs retention rates started to go up. But I needed to get myself in that place of clarity. I needed to stop, being mad and being resentful. And so for me, that's how, and that's the short version, but that's how it helped me. And so let me share with you a little bit about what I realized. I realized that sometimes you need to pause so you can move forward. You just need to turn away from something so you can see why you fell in love with it in the first place. And I think I needed to remember and remind myself why I chose to be in higher education, why I chose to work with college students, and what was it about that. And so allowed me to really think about, I gave myself that permission of, it's okay, this is where you're supposed to be, and here's why, and here's what you can offer to college students, and here's what you can offer the higher ed world. And we all face that, right? We all have those moments where we're like, I don't know. And should I be here? Should I be doing something else? Am I feeling appreciated? Long hours, long days, whatever it is, right? I also realized that I had to be true to myself, because that honestly was where success needed to begin for me. And that was huge. But most importantly, you can't always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose how you feel about it. And I think that is the biggest lesson that we can take away from many of our experiences. And I think sometimes even working with the students, and I typically work with a lot of students who are at risk and coach them, they don't always understand what they did wrong, right? They don't always understand why things have happened. But where we can help is really helping them understand that they can always choose, how they want to feel about it and how they move forward and what they take and what their lessons are. So I gave myself permission to feel first, right? And then I was able to set my goals. So these are my core desired feelings. So if any of you are interested, on the Danielle LaPorte website, there's a nice little fancy dancy tool that you can create this image with your core desired feelings. But mine are, as I always want to feel balanced. And for me, that's from a health and wellness standpoint. And that was from then, as I mentioned, feeling creative, feeling intuitive, and really being able to connect with myself. That was really important. Feeling inspirational and feeling inspired. I think that is true for me. And then feeling abundance. I can definitely tell you the three that have worked really well for me, I think, are creative, intuitive, and inspirational. And I know right now, at least the two that I definitely am working towards are more the balanced and certainly the abundance piece. So the first part is really developing those feelings. The second part is, all right, you all know this, the action plan, right? The goal setting, what you're most familiar with. But here's how you do it in this method. So you're going to do this for all of the areas. So let's just use livelihood and lifestyle as an example. So let's say if I want to feel adventurous within livelihood and lifestyle, that's my core desired feeling. Within the realm of livelihood and lifestyle, then I want to do, experience, and have the following. So the key thing here is, what do you want to do? What do you want to experience? And what do you want to have? So I just brainstormed here, but I said that I want to do one thing that scares me each day. And I want to experience Sedona in Arizona. I've always wanted to go there, actually, and have the money to travel once per year. So those are examples of the action plan that is attached to the core desired feeling. And so the biggest piece is, all right, well, what happens after that, right? Because we can all create those goals. We've created those SMART goals, and we often don't get there. And so how do we actually get there? What do we need to get there? And through this experience, and there is a level 1 and level 2 typically that I work through, is that the nice and key part of this is that you have to address the facts, right? What am I thinking right now? What's the true stuff? What's really going on? And what am I afraid about? What am I most fearful about this particular feeling, right? So if I want to feel adventurous, what is the facts surrounding that, and what are the fears that are surrounding that? And then remembering your successes. Even with students, when I'm working with them, I always ask them, tell me of a time that you did this well. And then they'll pause and they can't remember, right? You're all thinking the same thing. You're like, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. How about for you? Remember a time when you were successful? When was that? How did you feel, right? And then also creating positive, inspiring thoughts. So remembering your successes and creating positive, inspiring thoughts that are surrounding that. This one I think is key. Asking yourself I want the following. So if I want adventurous, I want to feel adventurous, versus I already have this within adventurous. So what is that? What is it that you already have versus what I want? Many times we already have a lot and we just don't realize it because we're always seeking something else, or we want something else. And then who's going to help you with this? Who's going to be your champions? Who are the people in your ring that are going to be in your four corners supporting you? Identifying those resources. And then the last piece is how will you give of yourself? Because in order to actually get somewhere, what do you have to do? You've got to give of yourself, right? You've got to be able to say, here's what I'm going to take responsibility for. Here's where I'm going to go. And here's who's going to help me. Here's what I want. Here's what I already have. And you know what? Here's what I'm afraid of. And so how am I going to be able to work through that? And I already know that I'm really good at the following things. So that needs to be some sort of confidence booster and opportunity for you to be able to move forward. So the key thing with all of this is that you're going to select 3 or 4 goals or intentions for your year. So you review all of the areas. And from there, again, similar to your core desired feelings, you take a look at what the themes are. And you pick 3 or 4 intentions or goals, because 12 or 10 or more than even 5 are way too many. And I do another workshop. It's focused on the power of one perspective, or as I call poop. And that in particular is really focused on one thing at a time. And that's for another conversation. But I think 3 or 4 is definitely enough as far as selecting 3 or 4 goals or intentions for your year. And then there's the check-in point. So here's an example from the book that shows you that there's a monthly check-in sheet, and then there's also a weekly check-in sheet for your core desired feelings. These must lead your way and your intention every day. So one of the things that I do every morning is I wake up and I say, today I want to feel creative, and I will do the following. And that should lead your to-do list. That should start your list of what you need to do, because that's going to provide you with most happiness, most joy, most satisfaction within you. Trust me, you will be a better person all in all if you do choose to do that this way. So one of the cool things that Danielle has, they're called Truth Bombs, and she has 2 apps actually, one of them called the Conversation Starters and the other one called the Truth Bombs. I get these every day at 11:11. You can actually get the app to zing you in. There's almost 1,000 of them, and there's decks that you can buy, and I play fun games. Actually, these are awesome for staff retreats or even for student retreats. If you're doing something with student leaders, these are awesome to pull out as kind of what is your intention for training, or what's your intention, for a retreat. Those are great ways to be able to use it. So the result of this is what I call the 4CR, okay? The 4CR. So clarity is that you walk away feeling clear. You feel more confident because of that clarity, right? You feel that centered and calmness that no one can take away, and you're ready to commit because it's clear and because you're calm. And lastly, the R is that it drives you to results. And I'm a great example of that. And I can share with you, and we don't have that time for me to sit here and tell you my whole life story, but I think the biggest learning curve that I have learned for me is being able to learn how to stay centered, how to stay calm, how to take a step back, and being someone who's driven, right, and always wants to do. And I think you will all connect with that, right? You're all that way. Everyone is, in the higher ed, because we're such givers and we want to help our students be successful. But we often don't take the time to get clear about ourselves. And I have seen how this has helped me in coaching students. This has helped me in leadership, working with my student leaders and my mentors that I work with. And so I really, really encourage you to do that. And how also people perceive you. I started to get people that walk up to me and be like, Connie, you seem much more calm or much more relaxed, or, I started to listen more, right? That's a great way for us to be able to communicate better, is not always being reactive, but then we become more proactive through this process as well. So here is an example of someone who's participated in actually one of my retreats, is that, and she shares her perspective there at the bottom. And so here's some examples of how it's helped others. So the first example that I want to talk about is in leadership roles and women's empowerment. So I'm actually going to be facilitating this to our women at WPI in March, actually for Women's History Month. And I have found that with my student leaders, I've asked them this question, especially with my senior leaders. I think that this exercise is wonderful for sophomores, juniors, seniors, more so at the junior senior year, especially when they're thinking about internships, careers, and jobs as they move forward. Students who are undecided about their major. I had a young woman, she's actually at UMass Amherst, and she was undecided about her major. And so she decided, I encouraged her to read the Desire Map, and 2 days ago, she actually wrote me and she said that it helped her realize of why she was unhappy at school. And it was because she wasn't connected to her major. And so she was pursuing other majors, and it helped her gain more clarity in that. So highly recommend that for that. Time management, academic success. I think really asking students how they want to feel in college, I think, is important. And I've done this with many of my coaching students that I have met with, and especially at-risk students who are on a warning or probation and on their way out potentially, and really helping them hone in on, and getting clear, on why they're doing what they're doing. From a professional standpoint is, I think this really helps with learning how to set those boundaries and to stop making excuses, and really being able to say, you know what, I need to say no to this over here and yes here, and being more intentional with how we approach things. But it's all in what you decide and determine are your core desired feelings. So I had a client once that I worked with and who came to me for a variety, actually she came to me for a variety of reasons, but we ended up doing some career focused stuff. And she was in res life, and she knew that she wasn't happy where she was. And so she wanted to, she loved res life, but she wasn't sure if she was ready for a higher level position, a director, potentially a dean level. And so we worked through the desire map, and ultimately she did end up getting a dean level position at another university. So it really helped her advance in her career and gain the confidence that she had the skill set and she had the ability to do that. And I'm sure there's many of you out there that are thinking, well, I'm not ready yet, or I might not have that skill set. This is a great exercise to be able to dive into it, to really gain that clarity and see if you feel like it's the right time to do something like that. And then certainly relationships. And I would say even from a colleague, a community based, right? Staff, faculty, our students, how are you reacting to things? How are you interacting? How are you collaborating? When you can get clear on how you want to feel, people will get that energy from you. They'll feel that vibe. And so this is definitely, I know at least, has helped a couple of people that I have worked with in this specific area. And again, I think it's more about taking the time to be more reflective, to listen, and to being able to be more less reactive, and really soaking it in before deciding on how to proceed, if there's a conflict that might arise. And there's another comment there. So I want you to think about how the desire map can help you personally and professionally, and then ultimately how it can help your students. I think there's some great experiences that you can offer your students, and you can do this in a group setting. And so one of the things that I would like to open up, and I'm very interested in doing, and again, I've done this experience with higher ed professionals. I've done it with non-higher ed professionals. I've done this one-on-one. I've done things with, you know, a variety of different groups. And for me, I'm really interested and I've seen how it can really help people make better decisions and gain that clarity. And I really want to be able to teach you and have you experience it, because I think there's some great opportunity here within higher education for us to be able to have a large impact, and to really sit in with what our genius is and be able to offer that and communicate that effectively. So what I'd like to do is offer a 6-week online class. It's once per week, only for higher ed professionals. And it is for $97, and it will include the entire Desire Map book, which the value is at $22. And I'm going to start this on January 20th. It's the new year, new opportunity, new you, however you want to call it. And so what I'd like you to do is, if you're interested, and if any of your colleagues are interested, please email Connie@soulsync.wellness.com to register. And you can certainly go to my website, soulsync.wellness.com. I did want to share with you some of her other products, actually, Danielle LaPorte's. She has journals. The Firestarter session is awesome, especially for retreats too, because it's great questions to ask, and conversations. And as you're all sitting around, that's the Truth Bomb deck. And then there's also a calendar and planner as well there. There's other stuff too, like tattoos and things like that. So this is what I want to leave you with. This is an affirmation that I live by, and as I help people every day, I think it's important that you all feel alive, you're all healthy, you're all fit, you're all confident, you're all happy, you're all fulfilled, mindful, balanced, empowered, inspired, strong. You're all yourselves, and ultimately that's what I see as being soul synced. And so I thank you for participating today. You can find me on Twitter. Follow me, because I'd love to follow you back. I really want to just start this conversation. We can continue in the Facebook group. Thank you again, and Happy New Year, and best of luck to all of you in your college campuses as you begin another new year, and hopefully the weather's a-okay where you are. Thanks again. Take care.